Hello and welcome back. Like we mentioned, we're going to be previewing Mizzou versus Bradley real quick here. I'm going to start off and I'm going to run down some stats that I found interesting, and then I'll let you get into it and we'll kind of go back and forth. So first off, points per game. Mizzou averages 79.2. Bradley averages 77.6. Bradley's holding opponents to 60 points per game. Mizzou 67.8. Shooting wise, these two teams are very good shooting from the 2-point land. 46% Bradley shooting on the year. Mizzou shooting 49.1%. If you look at opponent field goal percentage, I actually did something. I took out the two games that were against non-D1 teams for Bradley. But if you look at the opponent's field goal percentage, it's still 38.8 against the D1 competition. Still very good. Mizzou's also pretty good defensively, shooting-wise, 39.3, only allowing opponents to shoot 39.3%. Look at three-point field goal percentage. Bradley shoots 33.9, not too great, not too bad either. That's right around average. Mizzou's 31%, a little lower. You look at opponent three-point field goal percentage. Bradley's in those 6 games against D1 competition is 41.16%. Mizzou's opponents shooting 23.6%. One thing I think we have the big advantage on that we can take advantage of is the rebounding. Bradley's been a very good rebounding team the last 2 years. We're averaging 44 rebounds per game this year. Mizzou's averaging 38, which isn't too bad, but we're still a better rebounding team. And I think that's something we can use to our advantage, create second chance opportunities. And I'll swing it over to you. Just get your basic kind of outlook on the game and what you expect.
Yeah, you talked about the rebounding. That's always important in a game like this where you're playing a bigger team, a more physical, stronger team than what you've been playing this year or what you're used to playing. I would be a little bit more worried about that going into this game, but the game against Xavier and seeing how well Xavier's played this year kind of puts my mind at ease a little bit about that, because I think Bradley showed that they can play against a bigger opponent like Missouri and Xavier. I think the key for this game is going to be a guy like Sean East, because I think Eli's probably going to play. He might not be at 100%, but he's probably going to play. But a guy like Sean East has to be able to create and do the things he's been doing in terms of getting the team into the offense, pushing the ball, creating offense for them when they're in just their normal motion offense. And I think a team like we've seen with Missouri that defends pretty well, but that's just bigger and longer. Like, you have to be able to have someone that can create for you, even in a game like this, where they have 2 or 3 good perimeter defenders to kind of lock down on some of your guys. So I think that's going to be interesting, because I just think Sean East has kind of been that catalyst that Bradley needs, kind of like what Darryl Brown was last year for us.
Yeah, I actually wrote that down too, because they've got a very good point guard in Xavier Penson. He's out of Simeon High School of Chicago. He's done a lot of good things for him the last 3 years, and he's really putting it all together. He does a lot of things for him. He's not the biggest guy on the court, but he does a lot for him. I think the guard play will really be indicative of how this game will go, because they've got 3 guys who score 14 points a game: Drew Smith, Mark Smith, and Xavier Penson. 2 of those guys are guards. So I think the guard play is going to be very key in this one for Bradley. They got to be able to slow him down, make him go inside, because while Mizzou is longer and bigger on the guards, I think, than Bradley is, down low, they're not that much bigger. A guy like Xavier Tillman for him, he's big, but he's not, somebody that's going to physically dominate you down low. So I think the guard play will be very key, like you mentioned there. And seeing Sean East be able to create against a team like Mizzou and still do the things that he's done throughout the year, will be a very good sign going forward because he's still younger. He's only a sophomore. He's still a younger guy. But seeing him play well against a team of this quality will help everybody else too. And not only help him confidence wise, but everybody else will be like, okay, we got our point guard. He's playing well. He can do all this against Mizzou. Imagine what he can do against Valley competition.
Yeah, I really like what I've seen out of Sean East. I think he was a great addition, and then to get that immediate waiver for him was huge. But looking at their stats, Missouri stats against Illinois. Obviously, Bradley's not Illinois, but you kind of look. That's the last game Missouri's played. You were texting me during Bradley's Miami Ohio game, saying they needed to defend the three better. They really struggled there. That you think to that game, and then you think also to the South Dakota State game, which is a little bit of an outlier because no team you're going to play the rest of the year is going to shoot probably that well from three. But Missouri against Illinois shot 5 of 21, and that's a good sign if you're Bradley of, they took 21 threes. They didn't, if we can hold our own on the inside, not let them pound it on the inside, maybe we live with them shooting those threes. And live with them, shooting 24% like they did against Illinois, because that's a winning statistic that you can win games with. But then the other thing that you kind of look at that kind of scares me, going back to the whole rebounding thing, is they had 9 offensive rebounds against Illinois. Illinois is a bigger team. They're a more physical athletic team than Bradley is, just because they're a Power 5 school. I think Bradley plays a lot like Illinois, though. But 9 offensive rebounds against them is a lot, and I think that is not going to help Bradley, because Bradley wants to get out and run. They want to get out and push the pace, and if you're having to send 3, 4, 5 guys to the glass to rebound, you're not going to be able to get out and run as much. So I think that's another reason why we kind of mentioned just a little bit ago. I think why rebounding is the biggest key to a game like this.
Yeah, I mean, I do have concerns about Bradley's 3-point defending, but like you mentioned it, they didn't shoot well against Illinois. I mentioned it, they only shoot 31% on the year, so they're not really shooting too great on the year, so that doesn't worry me too much for this game. The rebounding, I agree, is a bigger concern. They did have a lot of second chance points and stuff like that. And I think in this game, especially as an underdog in a mid-major, you're going to want to make it a little uglier. You're not. I don't think it will be advantageous for Bradley to push the pace in this game. It would for Mizzou, I think, but Bradley not necessarily, because they don't. Again, this is a Power 5 school. They've got the better athletes. They're a little longer, stuff like that. So I think if you can make it a little ugly, frustrate them a little bit, which Bradley knows how to do. They know how to frustrate teams on defense and crash the glass. I think getting those defensive rebounds, especially if there's a tip ball and you have to fight for it, if you win those battles, that'll be a good sign. You need to win a couple of those early, get the guys pumped up. Again, you're going into Mizzou. This is actually a true road game, so you got to win some of those 50-50 balls, some of those, up for grabs balls early, and kind of set the tempo early that it's going to be a physical, tough, grinded out game.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you have a game like this where it's a smaller school versus a bigger school, there's things that you have to do. You have to shoot the ball well. You have to be able to – you can't beat a team that you're not better than athletically if you're not shooting the ball well. And I think it's rebounding, and it's turning the game a low-scoring defensive game where you're rebounding the ball well, you're limiting possessions, you're not turning the ball. You have to do the little things like that well. And Bradley, I think in the past has shown that they can do that. Like you think back to like the games against Loyola, and you think against the games against like Valpo, like those obviously those are MVC versus MVC teams, but they're still ugly in their own way, I guess. Like they're two good defensive teams that rebound well and try to limit the pace of play. And I think that's what Bradley's got to do. They got to kind of treat it like that game. But I mean, it'll be interesting because like you mentioned, Missouri's going to have the better athletes. They're going to have the better the better just all around basketball talent than Bradley does. But I think Bradley's got, Worrell's a good coach. We seen when they played bigger teams that they hang around in these games with bigger teams. You think to the Michigan State game a couple years ago. You think back to last year with Kansas State and the North. I mean, they got blown out by Northwestern, but they hung well in some of those games we've seen. So I think that kind of game where it needs to be slower and drag out in a fight favors a team like Bradley because they play those games in the Valley.
Yeah, and you even take a look at earlier this year. You lose to Xavier, a team that's undefeated and ranked right now. You lose
Mm-hmm.
to them on a missed free throw, and you kind of live with that. You're like, okay, I mean, we gave them their best shot. And you even look at that game, Xavier shot the ball only 33.9%. So if you do something like that, and Bradley, you turn around, Bradley shot the three 37%, a little above average and closer to that 40% mark. And that's going to help you win a game like that. It is playing defense like that, forcing the ugly shots that we saw Xavier take, and then making in return making your 3-point shots and getting that to have or as your advantage.
Yeah. I think that game against Xavier early in the year is really going to be a game Bradley can lean on and say, this is a similar game. We've been here. We've had chances to win. I just think this is going to be a game where it's going to come down the stretch of can Bradley get the defensive stops and the rebound that they need? Because what kills games like this for a team like Bradley, what kills is you play defense for 25 seconds, that you get them to take a bad shot, and then you give up an offensive rebound, and then you have to defend again. It's the same thing. You think about like football, a team gets a turnover and then they give it, or they get off the field on third down and then they turn over and the other team goes right back out there, and that's when the score happens. It's the same thing in basketball. You play defense and then you give up a score, or you give up an offensive rebound and then boom, you give up a score, and all of that good defensive work that you just put in is gone. I think that's what Bradley's going to have to limit, and they cannot let that happen down the stretch, because they can very well be, this could be a 5-point ball game about the 3-minute mark in the second half, and it's making that extra play, that one more play than Missouri does to keep the game the way you want it to be.
Yeah, I think to your point too, it's the missed opportunities that we talked about when we were talking about college football and recapping those games. As an underdog, missed opportunities are going to kill you, and then hustle points for the other team, like your second chance points, letting them get out without you being able to set a defense up is going to kill you. Those are the couple things when you're an underdog in a situation like this that are going to kill you. And if you can limit those second chance points and those transition points to a minimum, and then you take advantage of your opportunities, you're going to find yourself in a good position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Bradley can very well take advantage of opportunities. They have the shooting, they have a go-to guy in Eli. They have the players that they need to take advantage of those opportunities, but you have to make sure you get those opportunities by finishing possessions, getting rebounds, and playing your style game like we've talked about. And I'm excited. I think this is a game where I think it'd be more fun of a game if there were fans, and because I think Bradley would have a good fan base that would have made the trip down there. But this is a chance, like we saw SIU win yesterday against Butler. That's the Valley's best win of the season so far. This is a chance for Bradley to really seal up their top spot at the Valley with a win like this, because this would be the best win of the season. This would probably be the only ranked team a Valley team will beat. So it's got a lot of early implications for how the rest of your season could look if you get this win and really set yourself up for success going into Valley play.
Yeah, we've talked about it that, the Valley and Bradley need to win more games that they're not supposed to. You look at what, like you mentioned, SIU did last night against Butler, winning that game. That's big. And the last couple of years, the Valley too has had like one or two ranked games where they've won those. And this is the opportunity. And I know it's kind of hard that it's the only opportunity right now for the Valley, but this is the opportunity. And if Bradley takes advantage of it, it not only benefits them, it helps out the whole conference, because you've got a team like Drake who's undefeated, not necessarily playing against the best competition, but they're undefeated, they're rolling, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. SIU, they're undefeated, they're rolling, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're even beating teams they're not supposed to beat. And you've still got Loyola, Northern Iowa, Indiana State, who's just won earlier today against SEMO. You got this whole, a deep league that we've mentioned that could all benefit off of this game.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say that it all rests on Bradley's shoulders, but it doesn't really. As long as they have a good showing, I think the Valley can be proud of that, and Bradley can be proud of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an interesting position to be in. It's kind of a tough position to be in, because it's like, if you win these games, these teams are going to stop scheduling you.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have an opportunity to win, so it's like, it's a tough situation to be in. And then that's just kind of the life of being a mid-major school.
Mm-hmm.
Now is, you don't get too many of these opportunities because teams are afraid to play you, because you can win and because you can beat them. And yeah, I mean, but it's a great opportunity for the Valley. It's a chance for the Valley to, in 2 days, have two pretty impressive wins on their resume early, and show what this conference is able to do, and the level of play at this conference.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm very excited. I know you're very excited. We'll definitely talk about this tonight, and then this is their last game before Valley play, so it's a big one. And definitely will set the tempo going into Valley play against Valpo. And with that, we'll take a quick break, and then we'll do a little bit of a broader look at the rest of college basketball.